So I'm calling the meeting to order at
Gabby.
6:30. No public other than our special Ian Keel person.
For BCTV.
For BCTV, thank you. And I want to ask if there are new additions to the agenda. See what I mean?
That's okay.
Agenda,
Nothing.
nothing. Are there changes to the agenda order?
None.
So we have meeting minutes of 2 meetings to approve. The first one is the regular meeting of July 23rd, at which Veranda, Gordon, and I were present.
Then I would make a motion to approve those minutes.
And I shall second.
Can I just say, can we add that I requested to participate by phone, but there was no accommodations?
We could add
Can you
that.
please, would you
I
mind?
couldn't do that, you're right, sorry.
What happened?
no
We had no
phone.
cell service at the
We-
church.
Oh,
Oh,
that was
right.
part of why it got moved to the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
You want that added?
Oh, that's
So,
too bad, Gabby.
let's, could you say as amended tonight
I-
that Gabby tried to participate by phone?
Yes, I approve, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I will second the the motion.
All in favor?
Ah,
Aye. You're abstaining.
You're
and-
abstaining.
I'm
You're
Aye.
abstaining. The second minutes are the meeting of August 13th, at which
I was
Gabby,
not there.
Gordon, Richard, and Jill were present, and Veranda was not.
I
Any
believe Richard
notes
was
on-
by phone.
yes.
Yes. Any comments on those minutes?
I move that we accept those minutes.
Thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Oh.
you.
I abstain.
And Veranda abstained.
Yes. When she
Um,
remembered to.
So Veranda, I need you to sign this one. Gabby.
So while we're just taking a minute to sign, I would like to say that it's pretty amazing that we're sitting here, and we can only get a hint of how much the town office staff has gone through these months, and to get to this point where we can have a meeting here today. So, Peter, thank you, and thanks to everybody else.
Yes,
That's the one.
pass that on.
And we should note that it's sort of cool in here.
We should note that.
Yes. Good old
Very
Mitsubishi.
comfortable.
Do you want to do the highway update?
Yeah, sure. I spoke with Dan this morning, and the road crew have been working on pretty much their usual summer items. They've been placing a lot of culverts, as I'm sure everyone's noticed. They've just about completed a large project down on the beginning of School Street, right by Guilford Center Road. So three of the guys have been working on that. They've also been doing a lot of mowing, started grading the roads again, and Dan said they've spent most of the past week working on equipment.
Yeah,
So-
he was doing that last week.
Yeah.
There were terrible washouts, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago on the far side of Carpenter Road by
Yep.
Stuart Hunt's house. That was closed. And the other day, I was really feeling for our road crew, how much work there was to do to deal with the erosion of the sides of the road.
But they did it.
Ongoing problem.
Yeah.
And our excavator's been working very nicely.
They are
Talking
in
to
love with the
guys,
machine.
yeah. That's real, well, it's paid off from a standpoint, in my opinion. We're not renting one, so it's good.
Peter, I think you need to bring us up to date on the FCC license renewal also.
Yes, so I'm not sure how Danny was alerted to the fact, but about 2.5 weeks ago, Danny learned that our FCC license for our radios for the road crew, it's because the school, as everyone knows, the school sold their school buses and moved to a service provider for that.
Did not know that.
I
And
didn't know that.
Oh, okay. And because of that, the service provider that is now running Guilford's school buses uses a different radio signal than our town road crew does. And so we're attempting to figure out a solution to the issues so that if there were problems with a school bus, whether it got stuck or a road needed plowing or whatever it was in the wintertime, that their school bus drivers could communicate with the road crew. And in that process, Dan discovered that the town's license for our radio and our tower or antenna expired in 2012. So started doing a little bit of investigation, and so I worked with Dan, and we started a process whereby we're working to renew our license. So unfortunately, because of the long lapse in time, if it lapses for more than 6 months, we have to go through the application process all over again. So we were doing that. The FCC requires us to work with a third-party provider on that. There's only one for municipal highway radio signals. And so I've been working with them. They've been very helpful. And hopefully within maybe the next month, we should have our license back. But in the meantime, we can still keep using them.
Good, thank you.
So
And then we have 2 items related to Green River Road. The first is that we had to spend some more money on the repairs of the Green River Road? Yes.
it was Green River Road.
And there was a memo in the folder.
It was like $2,200 or something, correct?
I'm not sure how
Off
it
the
came out
top
in
of
the
my
end,
head.
it was
It
about,
was 2,000 plus labor.
yeah.
2,000 plus labor.
2,000
2,000
materials plus
materials,
labor. They didn't
Okay.
give an estimate for labor.
What I heard is they were estimating about 4 hours.
And they apparently got it done in about 4 hours, because I
That's
thought it was
correct.
gonna be closed for 2 days in a row, and it,
Nope, it was closed for half a day.
yeah, so that was amazing.
So the additional cost was,
We don't know yet. We have not
Oh, okay.
received the bill yet from Mike.
but it was 4 hours of labor that would be on top of the material.
Yep,
Okay.
that's what Mike's estimate was.
And it's in the, it's sort of in the budget, we've accommodated for it, so.
It was, just briefly, it was a section of just north of the major washout that happened. And one of the state representatives that came down thought that we should fix this section. The state engineer said no, and so the state engineer was the one that had say-so. And so when MT3 was doing the work, they discovered that due to the washout, that this one section had just gotten too degraded, and next major rain, that would have washed out. And so Dan really felt that it was necessary to fix it, and since Mike said it would take half a day,
Right.
it seemed worth it to do it.
That's the vertical there, isn't it, on the bank?
Yes.
I mean, it was bad.
I did take a bunch of pictures of.
Where is it
before
on
and
the
after.
Green River Road?
It's about a quarter mile south of Steve and Nancy Detra's house.
Do you know there's a cabin that's been unoccupied for quite
In the-
some
in the
time? It's a
island?
little gray cabin.
Yeah, that's near Carol Schnabel too, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
live right near each
She's
other.
up the road a piece.
And the other thing connected to the Green River Road is that I thought it made sense to write a letter to V-Trans to complain about the grant process and the time and the restrictions that they went through. That really made it impossible for us
Right.
to do nothing but spend our own money and not be eligible for it.
I thought it was an excellent letter,
Peter
that you
did
put
the entire
together.
thing,
so
so. just
thank you
wanted
for
to-
doing that.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think that if we want to get something out of it, then we should think about ways of phrasing it in a positive manner. That seemed a little bit like complain. But I think if we want to get something, like we want to let you know that why this didn't work for us, so that in the future you can use this information to adjust your grant process if possible, just so you understand our experience. This seemed a little bit like, if I read it, I'd get really defensive, and I know V-Trans has done a lot for us in the past, and is going to continue to do a lot for us in the future. So I think if we want to get something out of it, we should frame it in a way that makes it productive for everybody, rather than just a
In
complaint
the
letter.
future, you're.
Yeah, like
I
this was
didn't
our
take it that way,
experience.
so, no.
I mean, I thought it was sort of, we're unhappy, you didn't get back to us, you didn't do this. I mean, I think there's a way to approach it such that they could use this in.
I thought the
if they're going
facts
to
were laid
adjust.
out well in it, and it wasn't
That's
a.
I mean, I
Yeah,
sort of
that's-
read it and
that's
was like,
fine.
oh, that's sort of a,
Thank you, Gabby.
That's good
but
input.
that's
Yeah.
my opinion.
For new business, we have a request from the residents the sole residents on Potash Road to turn it,
Well, sole property owners.
sole property owner, correct, to turn that road into a drive.
Private road.
A private drive,
A
yeah.
private drive, yes.
And I believe that Danny is 100% in favor of that, if I'm,
Yes, yep.
I
As of
think,
last I spoke to
Do
him.
we need a motion?
Are they the only landowners on the road?
They are, that's the other unique thing about this.
So you know there are two
situation.
addresses that I saw in that memo.
That's correct, there are 2 addresses and they own both
They
addresses.
own both of them,
That's
so they
correct.
own everything.
Can someone remind me where Potash Road is? I know I
It's
see it all
where
the time.
Roz Oaks' house was.
Oh, yeah. Off of Sweet Pond Road.
Yes.
I motion that we, how shall I say this? Accept the suggestion of the landowners that we turn the road into a private drive.
grant their request to.
Grant the request, yeah. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Has there been any precedence in the town of doing this? Just curious.
I did not find any in the little Sheila
So
had.
this is the
Made you
first
Yep.
that we are aware of.
Yep.
Usually it goes the other way, so
Yeah.
I think it's very great they want to do that.
Yeah, Dan, when Dan was taking me on my drive-about, as a select board member, they had posted a private drive sign on the bottom of it, and so they had a conversation about it. And I think that this request was the outcome of understanding that making that alteration made sense for them.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Isaac Wagner,
Yes.
welcome. You're on for CC for
Just
G.
sit up there, my back.
That would be great, and if you could just roll a chair up.
Yeah.
Richard, slide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'll do that one.
Good.
In the spirit of, you're very efficient tonight, so I'll.
Yes, we
I'll just,
are.
Chop,
I'll get
chop.
right down to it.
Let's get right to it.
Ellie, I basically had asked me to come to talk with you guys. I was going back and forth with Peter and Alan, who is your septic designer, regarding the opportunities around the septic you're about to put in. Are you aware, has this been in front of the board?
I'm
Yes.
aware of it.
You're all aware of it. So, end of the day, I think it ended up where everybody thought it would, that we could move in time and to satisfy your needs, to have your septic in and running, and I think that was abundantly clear when we talked with them. But I think the community collaborative just wants to express thank you for thinking about us and allowing us the opportunity. The issue is they are now looking at the school's lot right next door to build on here, and there is a pretty large protection area surrounding the school's well that you may have known from your septic design, which is why you ended up with the leach field out here and not someplace else to try to. I think you're technically still in that zone, but you're at the corner of it with that leach field. So I guess the request, well, I know the request from CC4G is that the select board keep an open mind to sharing that leach field location in the future, and of course, CC4G's expense, if that's something that the permitting agencies require us to do, is to sister up on the leach field only. It wouldn't be other aspects. I'd hope the board could just keep an open mind to that in the future, and this could be way into the future, but just keep an open mind to that possibility.
Thanks.
All right, and that's really the only update on that end. With regard to contract,
Is the leach field has the capacity to handle that?
so I'm not a leach field expert, but it's sort of an above ground mound leach field. It's very easy to add capacity to it. So it doesn't have the capacity now, and it didn't make sense to put it in now, not being as not that far along in our own feasibility study. But apparently it's very easy to do, to add a couple of runs within that mound.
Is that what sister up means?
Yeah, so in other words, we would approach it in one of two ways, but all the sewer from the new building, if it were to be built, would be routed, in through either their own separate tank, separate septic tank, or through a proposal to you where we dig up your septic tank and put a bigger one in and then put a bigger leach field in. The only sort of low-hanging fruit in terms of opportunity right now would have been to put an additional pipe in the ground between your septic tank and your leach field. That would have been a very low cost, but I didn't want to delay. I mean, Peter pointed out you already had bids in, you're already selecting contracts. You signed a contract yet?
No, they're gonna do that next week.
You're already on the road, and then adding change orders to that and everything else just had the potential to slow us down. Actually, that change CC4G would have had the money to do, but we just felt like it would have, if it ended up delaying you, it would have hurt. So
Yeah.
we just didn't want to risk that. So, but knowing how your construction's going into the summer, so.
Okay.
So,
And we just, actually, on that note, we just got our permit for the system as designed.
and we
today.
have to resubmit. Oh, no, we wouldn't for the extra line, he wouldn't have to, but.
Is that what he determined?
He
He said to expand the leach field, it would need
Yes.
to be an amendment to the current
Yes.
permit. And then we also got for the select board, we got our final bid for the project. So I'll present that to you all next week.
But he wouldn't, I mean, to put in a future use pipe right next to the
Yeah.
actual use pipe wouldn't have required, I don't think, a permit.
No, that's what he said.
But whatever, it still could have delayed you either way, so.
Then you have your contract to discuss.
Yeah, so this is a weird one for some people to get their head around. I'm working for CC4G, but the way we structured this, like going on 3 years ago now, when CC4G did not have any budget or organization, which they have now, they've developed quite an organization, was that I would go under contract with the town to help them, because the town had a grant to pay for it. So instead of sub-granting the town's grant to CC4G, they just kept the grant and ended up contracting with Black River Design and with me directly to do the work. Well, we ended up stopping our work on the church site because we got to a certain point where we realized
It wasn't feasible.
it wasn't feasible. So we stopped additional investigations before we paid for them. And so there was a little bit left on the Black River Design contract. At the time, there was a little bit left on mine. We didn't go to estimating. We didn't do some permit analysis. We didn't do some environmental review items we were supposed to. So at the end of the day, we have about 5,000 left in that grant, which is about the additional amount that I'm proposing here for me to help CC4G do a similar feasibility study on this site next door. We are also going to hire Black River Design again, except this time around, Black River Design is going to go under contract directly with CC4G instead of through the town, because that would add an extra element. I'm only going under contract for the balance of your grant award, or approximately the balance of your grant award. So that's what I tried to reflect in this proposal, which was pretty similar to the last proposal that we put forward. I should say, I've got a verbal from Nate Cleveland, Peter.
Great.
I haven't got it in writing, so I'm proceeding with caution until I get that go-ahead. I think that the issue is whether we need to do an amendment or whether we can just do it administratively.
Is that for a planning grant?
Yeah, this is a planning grant, yeah. So even if you were to sign that right now, I'm gonna make sure to get that, I'm gonna make sure to follow up, Nate, make sure we're square, good.
Okay, that's great.
Any questions on it?
Contract seems,
I was just a little unclear about where the money was coming from, so I'm glad you clarified that it was coming from an existing grant. So
Yeah,
can we
that
put that in the contract, that the money is to be paid from the existing grant only, and anything other than that, I would like CC4G to indemnify, I mean, I would actually like them, or either don't accept
I thought I
anything.
did put that in, but maybe,
I thought I saw that too. Actually.
but it could have been, maybe it was in
Was
the
it a
email.
cover note?
Yeah, it may have been in the
I
cover.
didn't see the cover letter.
But no, I agree, I think Gabby, that's a great
And to
suggestion.
put the grant number specifically. so that we know exactly what we're talking about. 'Cause I
And
was-
as a reference point back to that original
Yeah, because it
grant,
talks about,
it gets confusing.
like in the first paragraph, it talks sort of like about a deliverable for potentially getting a CDBG grant, based on the feasibility of what the, you know, the scope of the contract currently, and then it said sort of $5,000, $90 an hour above that, so I just wanna make sure we understand where it's coming from and that we're not on the hook for it.
Yeah, I must have.
It was in the cover letter.
I think it was in the cover,
Yeah, I'll put it.
well, your cover email, which I didn't share that with them.
Yeah, I'll put it, I'll add it to this.
Great.
So, and since you have my name on it and I signed the first one, if you are gonna make a motion, you could make it
Are you gonna,
as amended.
are you gonna say not to exceed a specific amount? Shouldn't it say that?
Just say
Well,
no.
I'm gonna think about it, but I think what you're trying to get at is you don't wanna use taxpayer or town money on it. And so I'll just figure out, make sure.
So it
that-
should
that-
not
that it comes
exceed
from
the
grants.
amount of what's left in the grant.
With the town, whatever your
Yes.
arrangement
Right.
with CFG is later.
Would be a
is
separate-
Separate agreement. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what kind of action does this require from us?
And I think that Sheila should sign, not Peter. I don't think Peter has the, he's not an agent of the town to make contracts as far as. I would just keep it clean.
Well, I am if you guys authorize me to be. If you don't
I think you
want me to,
signed the
that's.
last one.
I did sign the last one because you guys authorized me to sign the
Don't tell
last
Gabby.
one.
I just keep it clean and say it's from the select board.
However you
yeah.
wanna do it, no
Well, we
hard
could keep
feelings here.
Yeah, no, just so it's all on the,
Yes, you can do that. So we'll amend it to say, so I would entertain a motion to accept the contract with the amendment that it is not to exceed the dollars left in specific grant number so-and-so,
Mhm.
to be signed by the chair of the select board.
Second.
No,
I
you're making
make
that
that
motion.
motion.
I will second it.
Thank you, Gordon.
You're welcome, Richard.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I do have a question, Isaac, and I don't think it is the right time to get it answered, but it's been a long time since we had a report from CC4G on what's happening, where their feasibility study's going, what they've discovered in these 3 years, et cetera. So I think we might ask, I don't know if it's you or Ellie and Reagan, or to at some point, just
Yeah.
update us on everything. And I don't mean tonight, I just, because you are going ahead with another feasibility study, so it's motion.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of mini ones over the past year and a half, looking at a bunch of
Yeah.
different sites. I think they're on their 5th site
Yeah,
they've looked at, but this one's the most promising for a couple of reasons, so.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly we'll, I'm not exactly sure where we leave that, Sheila, other than to say
yeah, I'll
we
talk to
will
you, we'll talk to
update
you
you.
too.
but
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I just think it would be a timely thing to
Yeah.
go through.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thanks for your time, and
Appreciate that.
see you when we update you.
Yeah, thanks, Isaac.
I'm sorry, who seconded that, please?
I did.
Thank you.
My distinguished colleague, Gordon.
Oh, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Vermont Community Leadership Summit. And we were invited by VCRD to nominate somebody from the town who would attend at no cost the conference Community Leadership Conference on October 1st. Catherine Partington would like to do it.
That's great.
And so I think that was a pretty, people were enthusiastic about that suggestion, so if there's a motion to.
Is Catherine Partington's contribution to our town, her work with with Sarah Coffey's group, the Vermont Performance
Among
Lab?
other, I mean, she's just been more and more active, so yes. The Black Arts Barn and, so unless, does anybody have any other suggestions, or is there a motion to
I so move.
appoint Catherine as our
I'll second it.
nominee? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do you want to talk to us about town office window treatments, or are we all pretty familiar with the issue?
Well, there's one slight thing I need to add that, hold on one second, please.
Okay, sorry.
Yep,
I'm just gonna say that this was, situation where all the blinds were removed, heaped up in a pile,
Right.
and rendered unusable.
But I think
They
I
were
would
all
add
at least
to
25 years old or something.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea to have new ones.
Okay, I apologize about the wait. Yes, so that's correct. The first site supervisor for GPI had his crew remove them all. Some were dumped up in the attic, some were dumped in a pile here. They were destroyed, is the short story. So in our bi-weekly meeting with GPI and Greenberg, all of us were there discussing it. Joe said that he felt that he did have some partial responsibility for the cost of these, but not full responsibility due to their age and the fact that we're doing all this other work here. So Greenberg made the suggestion, and we ended up talking about it, that what about Joe and GPI paying for the cost of installation of the new blinds and the town paying for the cost of the actual blinds themselves. That seemed to be relatively reasonable. In speaking with Joe, since this would be a change order and as in part of accepting responsibility, Joe did tell me he would like to offer the town $500 towards the total expense. And he said whether it's towards the installation cost or however we want to do it, as well as he will not apply the CM fee to this change order. So,
Why is it a change order? Why do we have to go with, why, they're not blind people.
they're not, but just to kind of keep track of the process and how it's happening, it's not gonna cost us any
No,
money.
I would take the $500, but I don't know why we need them
wouldn't
to
have
be
to.
involved.
If we wanted to run it through them, we could, and if we
I mean,
decided we're after construction, we wanted to install, we could do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why why there's even talk of a change order. Why would we take these guys, GPI, this big construction company, to deal with our blinds?
So, as, you guys can do it however you see fit.
Is it easier to do it with them? I mean, what part are they gonna play in the blinds?
It looks like they're gonna install them, so they happen to be here.
They are gonna install them,
Right, so.
as part of their work, so that's the
That's why
change
it
order.
would be
Exactly.
a change order. If we
Okay.
didn't have them install it, we could
Then
call
we
and
could-
have somebody else install it and call it a day. Those are, either option
So,
would be available.
in speaking with both Greenberg and GPI, there's basically one primary business in the general area that provides these services, and that was this custom window blinds, et cetera, out of Swansea. He came over and met with everyone that was here in the office that day and walked us through the examples of what he had. Our main concern was blocking the sun and being as inexpensive as possible for the town. And so that is what he provided for us.
Now, in that estimate, it includes installation, does it not?
It does. So the way that he does the business is he only, because the nuances of the blinds, he does all of the installation himself. And
Okay.
so Joe would pay $500 towards that installation. So the way that work is, if it were to be a change order, Joe would just invoice us for the cost of the physical blinds itself with no markup or anything like that.
So there's no change order fee.
That's what I was explaining.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's why there's no.
but I just wanted to be clear that they
Yep.
are in fact the ones installing it, not
Yeah,
GPI.
yep,
So he's offered $500 basically with no change order
That's correct.
associated with supporting
Yep.
his part of it.
That's
Did
correct.
anybody investigate Friends of the Sun? They do blinds and installation. They have a huge inventory of blinds.
I think that this is somebody that
They work
GPI's
with.
been working with
Yeah, and
and comfortable with their,
Greenberg also told us that these guys are less expensive than Friends of the Sun. Not that they're any
Music to my ears.
better, but that they're just less expensive. And Joe and Greenberg both really trust the guy that owns this business, have both worked with him extensively.
So we don't need to take any action.
I don't
There's no
think we-
action.
yeah.
I just
I think we're
think.
good.
Go for it.
Whoever's, I mean, I'm assuming we're getting proposed change orders and somebody who's, I'm guessing it's one of you two since you guys were sort of project coordinators, somebody is signing off on the change orders, right? Before they're implemented?
Technically.
There aren't
haven't
any
had
change
any
orders.
change
So this
orders.
will be the first one.
This is the first one.
Right.
I'll sign off on it.
I'll give you authorization.
So, I presented this to you simply because of the cost of it. And because, to find out whether or not you wanted it to be a change order, or you wanted us to directly.
Are they aesthetically pleasing? That's
They
important to me.
they're very nice. He gave a couple examples of places in Brattleboro that he has installed these. One of them is the Super Fresh Cafe. So they're a black and gray mesh that pulls down. So
Oh, yeah.
those of us on the inside, you can still see out. The ones that we agreed on that blocks 95% of the sun from coming in.
Right.
So you could still see your computer, and it also blocks the heat from the sun coming in, so it
Right.
helps reduce the need for air conditioning.
And they're on a roll chain, a chain.
No, no,
No.
no, they pull down, it's based on a
without-
magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're magnets.
Terrific.
I got it.
And then the one that was chosen for the bathroom is complete 100% blocking, so.
I should hope so.
Oh, nice. You looking for new window treatments or
No,
turn
I
off
have plenty of
questions?
window treatment. No, we got rid of our window treatments.
Thank
So
you for
great.
doing all that work.
Thank you, Peter, for
and you
the
guys for-
follow-up on
yeah.
that.
Let the sun
And
shine
for-
in.
Thank Joe
So
for contributing.
the next item is the Guilford Center Road dog issue. And I think that the constable, the dog officer, the constable, Peter, the Humane Society, and have done as much as possible. And we've had some reports out on
Front porch.
Front Porch Forum and on the town website, and I'm not sure there's any more to discuss unless they don't get their license, in which case,
And it's only been a week since Jacob notified them.
so.
But I think the
And they're
bigger
30
issue
days.
to discuss is who's taking over for Jacob.
Yeah, we have to, I've actually been asking around for recommendations
Good.
for constable
Okay.
and dog officer, but I would welcome suggestions from the select
Yeah,
board
no,
as
I
well.
hear you. I've been thinking about it and
Don McLean.
Oh, stop that.
I don't
Do we have
have,
a
So-
job description?
We have
We
job
do,
descriptions
yes.
for both, yes.
If anyone wants that,
And
they
there
can get it
is,
from me.
but it's like 110 hours of training for the constable,
That's
but
correct.
unfortunate, which we just invested in. But we would have to do it all over again. So we probably need to put that into
And
next
is
year's
there-
budget.
Is there any word about the dog situation? Has it improved or
Nobody has said anything since the last front porch.
no further complaints?
Not since the last notice that was put on Front Porch Forum as well as on the website. Annie, the executive director of the Windham County Humane Society, was going to go back this week and follow up with the owners one further time. And she said if there was she had any concern, she would inform me. But as I shared with you all in the email, that
Right.
at the moment, according to her, that the welfare of the dog is considered acceptable. It's not ideal, but it is considered acceptable, and they are not in violation of any state statutes or town ordinances at this time, aside from the not having the dog license.
Great, thank you.
In the,
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Well, I feel as if we're sort of leaching the dog thing into a different agenda item about the constable/animal control officer, so maybe I'll let that alone.
so it's not on the agenda, but
Right,
I
that's
was
what I
simply
mean.
mentioning that we are looking for one.
No, I was just thinking of expounding on that possibility more. I mean, just like how more aggressively to post the fact that we need one.
Yeah, so I think we'll have that on the agenda for Monday.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, thank you.
sure, terrific.
There's
Um,
another meeting coming up,
I
right?
know, right?
Yeah.
Fast and
Right.
furious. In the July 23rd meeting, we were setting the tax rate for the town, and
Right.
there were some questions about veterans' tax exemptions. So I'm just gonna report out what we learned so that it's resolved. One of the questions was, do we get proof of veterans exempted? And the state is the only entity that receives proof for veteran exemptions. The town is notified by the state about who the individuals are after Lisa submits information to the state for processing taxes. So we are told who qualifies for the exemption. This year's exemption went from 237,600 to 320,000 in 2018, plus another non-resident of 80,000. So that was kind of a big leap. The number of exemptions did go up this year because the town had more veterans who purchased property, but the total went to 360 instead of 400 because one person never held ownership of a piece of property that was claiming tax exemptions, or was claiming veterans exemption. The total amount of taxes to be collected from other sources that are exempted from veterans is $11,989.84, and this is 0.00564% of total taxes. So we think it is not a substantial financial burden on the town.
Wait, could you just read that sentence about the 11,000?
It was, we were curious to know how the numbers factor into total revenue. So what portion of the veterans exemptions get spread among all the other residents? Because they're exempt and we still have the budget. So it's under $12,000.
Okay, got it.
Which is
Is the impact.
half of
Yeah.
it.
This is
Spread-
one half of 1%.
Spread among
Right.
2,000 people
Yeah,
Yes.
or so.
so that is the report on
Thank you
veteran
for the
tax
follow-up on that.
exemptions. Playscape work, Peter, yet again.
So, in August, as you all know, there have been more activity around the Playscape. And you can fill in if I miss anything, since you have been working with the liaison with the group, with the rec commission. More individuals as well as CC4G have become involved with this space, and in August we had one of our representatives for Passive come down, who had previously come down 3.5 years ago to review the site as a potential park space. And at that point, he had 7 different recommendations, some of which had been implemented, and however not all of them. And so the group that's currently working with the Recreation Commission and CC4G have started taking the steps to do so, and have all but one of them. His only new addition to that is that because of where the property is located, there's concern in how narrow the Carpenter Hill Road is right at the location of people finding a place to park, or how people are going to get to the property if they park at the old schoolhouse, if they have children and there's traffic going by. So Passive is requiring, if it's to be used at this space, to have a parking area, a small parking area designated on the actual parcel. So CC4G, I did share this letter with you, this information with you, if you guys wish. I have copies for all of you if you want to look at it. CC4G has volunteered to, and did put out an RFP for creating this space.
Creating the parking.
Yes. The easiest solution was to place some large stones to designate the driving area, parking area, and separate it from the play area, as well as separate it from the road. And this is a solution that was acceptable by Passive. And so CC4G, pretty much, they are going to pay for it. The lowest bidder on this was Vermont Roadworks. And they would, since the property is technically town-owned, CC4G would like to ask permission from the select board to go ahead with this work to make it a safe space. Because they don't feel like it's their decision to make, it's the select board's, because it's the town's property.
So they're asking the select board's approval for a boulder barrier between the parking
That's
area.
correct.
And the play
I think-
area.
I agree with that.
Yes, and can I just ask, is the parking just grass? We're not changing it to like impermeable, like an impervious?
That's correct. No.
Okay.
And it's around the old schoolhouse?
No, it's going to actually be on the property.
That end of the property that
Isn't
would
that
be
the-
closest to.
No, it's gonna be closest
it's gonna
to, I forget the family that owns the property.
Right, but it would be on that side,
Yes,
okay.
correct. And
South
CC4G
side.
did also consult with Dan on this, and he gave his approval of what they were planning to do, and that it would not impinge on the town right away and would not cause any problems. And Dan was supportive of getting parked cars off of Carpenter Hill Road.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Do we need an action on this?
Could I have a motion to
I
approve the
so-
boulder barrier between the parking area and the play area to be paid for by CC4G?
Mhm. I so move.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I want to note that in reading the materials, I've seen that Vermont Roadworks is again contributing to
Yes,
this
that's,
playscape,
saw
and
that,
that is greatly appreciated by the town. And also, not everybody else is doing a lot of work, but Robin and Michelle Frizzy are working on signs and a kiosk and making those contributions. So big thanks to everybody for doing that. I also think, Peter, that we need to have an article in the town meeting, 2019 town meeting, that relates to the fact that the town owns and must pay for the maintenance of this
Correct.
property, because that is a change from the 2015 town meeting.
Right,
I just wanna
and
make
the
sure that-
explanation of probably it doesn't have to be in the article, but will be in the town report, why they can't follow through on having it maintained entirely by volunteers.
Right.
You know,
that's a
they,
good point.
if they had the capacity to do it, it still wouldn't follow the guidelines that we have to follow.
So, anyway, I just want to make sure we don't lose track of that. Town office construction while you're working on typing up everything.
So,
Here we are.
here we are, yes, we're back in our trusty location, and I don't have a desk here any longer. Technically, the end date for the project is a week from today. However, due to the original site supervisor walking off the job 4.5 weeks into the project, as well as the weather, Joe has extended that deadline. The current site supervisor believes that he's working to get done by next Wednesday, which is
Right.
only
So
a
we-
day after the deadline.
Right.
Most of what remains to be completed at this moment is interior painting. Some of the interior painting is completed, however, not all of it. The exterior painting was completed yesterday. And there's just a few other minor things to be done. The electrician has a fair bit left to do.
Screens.
The window screens need to be reinstalled. But
Cleaning.
But we're damn
Well-
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
I mean,
looks
with
like
the
it's been
weather-
going very well.
You know, from listening to Joe, the weather has been the biggest,
It has.
issue around a lot of
At one
factors.
point in
Not March.
the beginning of
This month.
August, Joe was estimating we were 2 weeks behind, and
Right.
they have managed to pretty much catch up.
So you guys, do you have a punch list? Are you at that point where there's a
We are
punch list
not
and you're
yet,
going,
no.
okay, the walkthrough?
Yep,
What is
so,
the punch list?
So usually when you're almost done, and you're like, the contractor says, I'm substantially complete, you do a walkthrough and you get a punch list and you just list all the items that
Okay.
need to be fixed before you say, I'll pay you, you're done.
Okay,
so Joe is going to come next Monday to see where things are at and schedule a time to do the punch list.
So we have a pull-down screen coming, right, the projector screen?
The
Is that-
screen is currently in the
And the storage.
container, in the storage
But
unit outside.
they will,
They have agreed to install it. They were just waiting for They've been, as you can see, there's fresh spackling on the ceiling from the removal of the old lights. And so are waiting for that to be finished before they install that. But yes, it will be installed behind this last light here.
Good.
So I honestly did not check to see if our source and use of funds is up to date. And I think in July, or maybe this first meeting in August, we talked about a NEMRIC budget for the project to see how we're doing, so it is there. Okay, great, just wanted to, because I didn't see it in the folder. Great, thank you.
Can you stick it in the folder maybe for Monday's meeting?
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
Be happy to.
And so will we, when the work is done, will we schedule some kind of reception to invite the town to come?
Perhaps.
I'll bring some booze.
This is Ian from BC.
Oh, there's no booze on town property.
Right.
Ian Keel.
Behave yourself.
Perfect.
But secondly, also, Peter, you've done a great job
Yeah.
overseeing this process and working with Joe and the GPO crew, both Marks, so we appreciate it.
Are you happy with the way things have gone?
I am. It's working with GPI has been very nice, and they have helped my learning curve greatly, and they have tolerated all of our questions as to why are you doing this? Why hasn't this been done? And they've been really great to work with.
Good.
Joe's appreciated our staff in general at the meetings. He said he knows he's put them out pretty deeply, in the last couple of weeks particularly. But
Yeah, I'd
it's
say-
been a good relationship all the way around.
I'd say Gordon's correct. The past 2 weeks have been particularly difficult for those of us in the office, just due to the nature of the work that's being done at this point.
The smell, carpet smell.
Yeah. But,
Surprised you don't have a lot of headaches.
well, that's something we're tolerating.
Thank you.
Are these heat pumps or they are?
Well, they're not heat
Oh.
pumps. They will produce some heat, but most of our heat will come through the radiator as before, because you opted not for that. But they said that these will produce enough heat down to 45 degrees outside before we need to be concerned about the radiators kicking in.
Warrants. Gabby, did you have a chance to check these this week?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to pay the following payroll and warrants. Payroll for the week ending August 19th, 2018, in the amount of $6,422.24. Payroll for the week ending August 26th, 2018, in the amount of $5,790.58. Expense warrant 1804 in the amount of $17,328.77, with a grand total of $29,541.59.
I'll second it. Thank
Any
you.
questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there communications, Peter?
I have a couple of brief ones. As I shared with the select board previously, we were notified by BCTV, our friendly folks that do this work for us, about their annual members meeting on September the 20th, in which the select board members are invited to participate, as well as the producer award party, which the select board as well as the public are invited to participate. And that's on October 25th.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
You may speak.
That's Ian
The
Keel.
producer, yes, BCTV
BCTV.
camera. The producer awards ceremony is a blast. So
You went, Gabby, one year, didn't you?
She accepted the
Our
award.
award.
Yeah.
We used to have it in the background of these
Oh
meetings.
my God, we gotta get a special shelf.
Well, I would just highly recommend that if you can only make one of those two events, that second one is
Is there a signing page?
a really good one.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Second page.
Any other?
I have one other, is that, as you are all aware, we have got the agenda for town fair, the VLCT town fair this year.
Oh,
We need to talk, make,
it's not even on the agenda.
we can put on the agenda for Monday.
Okay.
I just have a couple, I thought you were done, sorry.
Yes, I
Jump
was
in
just,
before there's a motion to
Oh.
adjourn.
no, I
No,
was
no,
just gonna
there's-
say, so
Get it in
if,
there.
if there are any select board members that are interested in participating, please let me know sooner than later, because the early bird registration is next week.
So we have to talk about the municipal policy and
The
our
designee.
designee to the afternoon meeting. And I think I sent that out and nobody volunteered, I'm just gonna say.
I think it's
Okay,
a
are you
date
done?
issue for me.
Thank you. I just want to report in the Conservation Commission a stream table at
Oh, right.
the fair this weekend, and it looked really well attended.
Yes.
Lots of kids, lots of grown-ups. So thank you to Steve Lemke and the Conservation Commission. And just a reminder that September 12th is the Dark and Stormy Night event.
At the school?
At the
From
school.
6 to 8? Food, conversation, maybe we'll be lucky to have BCTV there to film it.
Oh, and I just wanted to report by a communication that the Cemetery Commission is finally getting proposals for the fence for the Route 5 cemetery. And, you know, for along the road on the main cemetery that people are generally buried in. And so that took a lot of requests for attention from the fence companies, but it's moving along and I'm pleased.
Great.
And then I had two more. So someone approached me about a junkyard on Hale Road.
About a what?
Junkyard. So I asked them to put it in writing, so we have a written request, but just know that somebody asked me about that over the weekend. I think they counted 16 unregistered vehicles. And then just to report back in on that bike race that happened. I'm not particularly favorable. There are some same issues about safety concerns, bikes and cars sharing the road, and serious congestion and lack of safety and related to parking and number of amount of traffic around the Green River Covered Bridge. So I just want to put that on. I think we need to revisit that with the Franklin Land Trust, because I think that the issues we brought up this summer weren't resolved. And I heard a number of people very frustrated.
Could you draft that for us to do it sooner rather than later, rather than waiting until they come next year to say, these are the things that we observed or that were observed and
I think-
reported back to the select?
Yeah, and I think we could just put it on an agenda for like January,
Yeah.
February. I just want to just report back in that the issues weren't resolved.
Yeah, just not to lose track of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before anybody moves to adjourn, do you have anything else?
I was just gonna remind folks that despite having the meeting tonight, a week later than usual, we are still having a select board meeting next Monday here in this office at the regular time of 6:30.
And it's the 10th, not the 11th, just
That's,
so,
yeah, I just changed it actually.
thanks. Record time, I would
I move
entertain
that
a
this
motion.
meeting be adjourned.
Thank you.
Second.
Gordon, all in favor?
Aye.
That's
Thank you.
7:23.
And a very entertaining meeting it was.
Ever.